On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, I was drunkenly defiled by a penniless scholar boarding at our home. My parents, enraged, hastily married me off. Only my eldest sister provided me with a dowry, saying through tears, "Should you face hardship in the future, come to your elder sister for aid." All praised my sister's kindness, saying though she was the false heiress, she was the true noble daughter nurtured for years by the chancellor's household. That year, my sister married into the royal household, while I, the true heiress, was humiliated into marrying a scholar living in a thatched cottage. 3 years later, after being tormented by the scholar until I fell gravely ill, I fled back to the capital seeking my elder sister's help. There, she stood resplendent in luxurious robes, her face radiant as she nestled in the arms of my brother-in-law, now the crown prince. Seeing me near death, she sneered, "Don't you know, little sister? On your coming-of-age day, you drank the wine I offered. That's why you burned with desire and let that scholar lure you into his bed. You're the true heiress. If I'd waited until your coming of age, would such a splendid marriage to the crown prince have been left for me? I had to use a little trickery. I died in bitter resentment. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of my coming-of-age ceremony. My sister was smiling as she offered me a cup of wine. Little did she know, this very cup would become the wine of passion between me and my future brother-in-law. The wine was laced with a love poison. Once ingested, it rendered women limp as spring water, while men were overcome by animalistic urges. Without immediate release, their blood would reverse flow, leading to death. My sister was clever, she had laced the poison onto the rim of the cup. In my past life, after offering the wine, she smashed the cup, leaving no evidence. So the first thing I did upon rebirth was to swap her cup while the crowd was distracted. Then I guided her to offer the second cup to Prince Qin, Gu Jiuzhao. Gu Jiuzhao was the future crown prince, my sister's beloved, and my soon-to-be brother-in-law. I drank her cup in front of her, while the cup laced with the lust poison actually reached the prince's lips. A quarter of an hour later, in the rear courtyard's side chamber, His Highness the Prince, who had slipped away to sober up alone in the garden, stumbled and fell into my arms. His breathing was indeed labored, his body burning hot, exactly like the symptoms I'd experienced from the poison in my past life. I threw myself into his embrace. To Prince Qin, it felt like clutching an ice cube against a furnace. Not only did he refuse to let go, but he immediately began undoing my clothes, seeking skin-to-skin contact. The most terrifying aspect of the aphrodisiac poison was its power to strip a noble prince of all dignity and restraint, surrendering him to the most primal desires. Yet I remained lucid, guiding him to the side chamber beside the garden to evade another man who might seek him out. The moment we entered the room, Prince Qin lost all reason. He threw himself upon me, pinning me beneath him, and murmured indistinctly against my face, "Jinrong." Jiang Jinrong was my sister's name. Before I was recognized as the true heiress, Jiang Jinrong, as the only legitimate daughter of a first-rank general, had been selected to serve as a companion reader for the princes in the palace. She had schemed relentlessly during her time as a reader to win Prince Chen's mutual affection. My sister adored Prince Chen with all her heart, and he truly cherished her in return. In my past life, I always regarded Prince Chen as my future brother-in-law, never once considering competing with my sister for a man as the true heiress. Now, I cooed in response to my future brother-in-law's ferocious advances. This lifetime, I would not only reclaim everything rightfully mine, but also snatch away the man my sister loved most. My sister could never have imagined that the cup of wine she handed me would become the wine of passion between me and my future brother-in-law. After an hour of passionate battle, Gu Jiuzhao sank into brief satiety and unconsciousness under the wine's influence. His skin glowed with a flush, his chest and neck covered in my intimate bite marks. I admired the masterpiece I'd left upon my future brother-in-law's body. The last time I'd examined this man so meticulously was during that bitter winter in my past life. Back then, I'd fled to the capital, my body riddled with sores, and knocked on the prince's mansion door. 3 years prior, I'd married the impoverished scholar Duan Yuan, while my sister had married into the prestigious Prince Chen's household. 3 years later, I escaped from the scholar, limping on crippled legs, covered in venereal sores, arriving in the capital in utter disarray to seek help. Meanwhile, my sister had risen alongside Prince Chen, becoming the esteemed crown princess. The moment she saw me, she tucked her nose into her snow-white fox fur robe. "What foul disease has befallen you, little sister?" She flinched in fear, but Gu Jiuzhao immediately stood beside her. With a sweeping arm, he pulled her tightly into his embrace, glaring at me warily as he demanded of his attendants, "Where did this beggar come from, daring to intrude upon the crown prince's consort?" I stared blankly at this man. Gu Jiuzhao wore a deep gold brocade robe, his jet-black hair bound by a golden crown, a jade sash cinching his wasp waist, his noble elegance dazzling. Why did my sister marry such an incomparably noble and tender husband, while I was forced to marry a penniless scholar addicted to gambling and women? Clearly, I was the true heiress of the Prime Minister's household, while my sister was the fake heiress deliberately swapped by the wet nurse. When I was found and brought back to the Prime Minister's residence, Jiang Jinrong had already lived there for 18 years as the legitimate daughter. On the day I entered the residence, she held a sugar-coated hawthorn on a stick, carefully trying to win my favor. "Sister, please don't chase me away." As she spoke, tears welled in her eyes, while father and mother's gazes toward me held a subtle hint of reproach. The cuckoo had usurped the magpie's nest, and now that the magpie had returned, the other birds feared neglecting the intruder. Just as now, my sister remained the cherished lady surrounded by adoring attendants, while I stood disheveled and ragged, indistinguishable from a beggar. Before the servant could reply, my sister interjected, "Your Highness, this is my younger sister, Jiang Jinhe, who married far away in Songyang. The one who got drunk and mingled with scholars at her coming-of-age ceremony 3 years ago." Only then did Gu Jiuzhao understand. "Your Highness, please go inside. I'll see to my sister." Gu Jiuzhao didn't pry further. He adjusted Jiang Jinrong's fox fur robe and urged gently, "It's cold outside. Don't stay too long." Jiang Jinrong responded coyly. Only after the crown prince's figure had completely disappeared into the garden did Jiang Jinrong, supported by her maidservant, descend the steps. She drew close to me, her face filled with concern. "How did you contract such a vile disease, little sister?" Tears welling in my eyes, I explained, "Sister, after Duan Yuan married me, he spent every night at brothels with courtesans. Within a year, he'd squandered my entire dowry. He claimed he was studying for the imperial exams, yet he spent his days in debauchery. When drunk, he beat me. These broken legs are his doing. He even brought home a disease to infect me." In Songyang, there was no one to turn to, no help to be found. I trembled as I spread my hands, their palms still stained with a thick, foul-smelling congealed blood. I couldn't bear it anymore. I smashed Duan Yuan's skull. "Songyang County is hunting me down." I risked my life to flee back to the capital, but my parents refused to see me. "Sister, you once said that if I ever reached the end of my rope, I could come to you for help." I knelt down, clutching Jiang Jinrong's fox fur robe as I cried out in desperation, "Sister, save me. Duan Yuan deserved to die. I don't want to pay with my life for him. These venereal sores all over my body, they hurt so much, they're so filthy. Please, sister, find me a doctor. Help me clear my name. Give me a way to live." Duan Yuan was a scholar boarding at the chancellor's residence. That year, during my coming-of-age ceremony, I drank myself into a stupor. In my drunken stupor, Duan Yuan forcibly took my body, in broad daylight, in a pavilion with no cover whatsoever. We were caught in the act by the crowd. I had been recognized as the chancellor's daughter for less than half a year when this happened. After the incident, my marriage was hastily arranged by my furious parents. On my wedding day, only Jiang Jinrong contributed to my dowry. Holding my hand, she said, "Jinhe, should you ever find yourself without options, come seek your elder sister's aid." Everyone praised Jiang Jinrong for her beauty and kindness, so what if she's the fake heiress? 16 years of upbringing in the chancellor's household have made her a true noblewoman. I too believed my sister was noble and kind, which is why I risked my life to return to the capital, begging her for a way out. Her plump, dignified face truly bore the countenance of a bodhisattva. But suddenly, the corners of her mouth curled, her eyes turning cold. "I said those words back then because I knew you would suffer a fate worse than death if you married Duan Yuan." I froze. "Sister, what did you say? You still haven't come to your senses?" Jiang Jinrong leaned close to my ear, her voice chilling. "At your coming-of-age ceremony, the wine sister gave you was laced with a lust-inducing poison. That's why you couldn't control your burning heat, stripping naked in broad daylight right there in the pavilion. And Duan Yuan? He was my arrangement from the start. I had him lurking in the rockery beside the pavilion, waiting for you to lose all reason. Then he'd pounce. I timed it perfectly, bringing all the guests to witness your disgraceful affair. That day, every single person at your coming-of-age ceremony became an accomplice to catching you in the act. You, Jiang Jinhe, were ruined, your reputation shattered, never to find a decent marriage. Why? Why? Jiang Jinrong suddenly grabbed my hair bun. The moment you returned, I became a laughingstock. I was once the jewel cherished in father and mother's palms, but your arrival turned me into the cheapest imitation pearl. What a grand coming-of-age ceremony your parents threw for you. Every high-ranking official and noble in the imperial city came to celebrate. You stole the glory that was rightfully mine. Once a girl comes of age, marriage proposals begin, father and mother would surely favor you, their biological daughter. If I hadn't played my cards right, this splendid match with the Prince Chen's household would have been yours. Prince Chen has boundless prospects. I poured so much effort just to catch his glance, your arrival threatens to ruin everything. I won't stand for it. Don't blame me. If one doesn't fight for oneself, heaven and earth will destroy them. Had I not resorted to underhanded tactics back then, I'd be the one suffering this miserable fate today. Jiang Jinrong laughed. Fortunately, now I am the crown prince's consort, and you are a beggar woman. My eyes widened in terror. A wail caught in my throat, transforming into a gush of bloody sweetness that spurted forth. Jiang Jinrong's fox fur robe was splattered with my dark blood. She kicked me down into the snow. Immediately, soldiers surrounded me, and the prefect of the imperial city arrived on the scene. Jiang Jinhe murdered her own husband in Songyang County and fled to the capital. Since ancient times, murder demands retribution. Prefect Zhang, do not show favoritism or abuse your power. Prefect Zhang replied, please enlighten us, Crown Princess. Let her pay with her life for her pitiful husband. Jiang Jinrong. My blood-curdling scream was silenced as soldiers shattered my teeth with bamboo clubs. Jiang Jinrong shed her soiled fox fur robe, adjusting the crown princess's phoenix crown atop her head. Sister, 20 years ago, I became the chancellor's daughter in your stead. 20 years later, I became this crown princess in your place. Your entire life's fortune was destined to be snatched by me. You, just accept your fate. Her laughter rang out, clear and piercing. Rage consumed me, my festering sores erupting. In excruciating agony, I died, consumed by hatred. Before my final breath, I saw snow blanketing the imposing terraces and pavilions of the Crown Prince's mansion. If there is a next life, I will become the mistress of this place and trample all who wronged me beneath my feet. For when I snapped back from my past life's memories, Gu Jiuzhao had already awakened, his gaze gradually clearing. The moment he recognized the figure beside him as me, his hand shot up to choke my throat. You dare scheme against this prince? I feebly struggled a couple of times, revealing the bruises and red marks he'd left on my shoulder. It looked like I was the one who'd been taken advantage of. Gu Jiuzhao, feeling guilty, loosened his grip. I coughed violently twice and retorted, I was resting in the side room. Your Highness, drunk, burst into the inner chamber and... My shoulders shook as tears streamed down my face. Gu Jiuzhao, feeling the guilt of my tears, pressed his hand to his forehead in confusion. Impossible. I can hold my liquor exceptionally well. I barely touched a drop today. But your Highness was clearly drunk, flushed and out of his mind. No matter how much I cried and begged, it was useless. Gu Jiuzhao quickly sensed something was off. Could it be drugged? I pretended his words sparked an idea, deducing with convincing air, today was my coming-of-age ceremony. I only drank 1 cup, handed to me personally by my sister. I recall your Highness also drank from her cup last. Could it be my sister? If she truly plotted this, neither I nor your Highness can remain here any longer. Gu Jiuzhao defended her fiercely. Impossible. Jinrong is kind-hearted. She would never stoop to such a despicable act. No sooner had he spoken than the sound of people searching came from outside. First, my mother's anxious voice, Her Majesty the Empress is about to arrive. As the guest of honor at today's coming-of-age ceremony, Jinhe absolutely must not lose her composure. Find her quickly. Then came Jiang Jinrong, Mother, I'm unsure if I should speak of this. Earlier, a maid saw Jinha's sister enter the inner garden with a stranger. They've vanished without a trace. Could they be meeting secretly in one of the pavilions or side chambers? In my past life, my coming-of-age ceremony had indeed drawn the Empress's attention. The Empress and my mother had been close friends in their youth. Her attendance at my ceremony was essentially to observe Prince Chen. The palace intended to arrange a marriage alliance between the Prime Minister's household and the Crown Prince's court. Jiang Jinrong was originally destined to be Prince Chen's consort. Alas, before the marriage was formally arranged, it was exposed that she was a fake heiress, her birth mother merely a dancer in a brothel. Though she wasn't expelled from the Chancellor's residence, her current status remains awkward. The imperial family values pure bloodlines above all else. Put plainly, Jiang Jinrong is the child of a slave-born woman. Upon learning this, the Empress, though her face showed no sign, felt a pang of unease within. Her visit today was to observe the true heiress of the Chancellor's household, to assess her appearance, her character, and whether she was worthy of the position of princess consort. Jiang Jinrong understood the Empress's intentions. She had therefore laid a trap, lacing the tea with a potion, hoping the Empress would personally witness the true heiress, disheveled and half-naked, crouched beneath a stranger's body in the pavilion. In my past life, upon witnessing this scene, the Empress flew into a rage. My parents hastily married me off to prevent me from tarnishing the entire Chancellor's household's reputation. The more disgraceful I appeared, the more Jiang Jinrong could erase the stigma of being the false heiress. The viciousness of his intentions was plain to see. This time, failing to find me in the pavilion, she immediately led her men to the nearby side room. Soon, they discovered my door was ajar. "Sister Jinha, are you inside?" Jiang Jinrong didn't push the door open immediately but politely inquired first. Gu Jiuzhao looked utterly embarrassed. He was covered in my marks, the bite marks on his neck were vivid and wet, and the flush of desire still lingered on his ears. "Your Highness, don't worry," I whispered, "I'll handle them." "Your Highness," escaped through the small window. "Rest assured, Your Highness. I shall never utter a word about today's events." Gu Jiuzhao looked slightly startled. "But what about you?" The precarious state of the bed, the damp, disheveled bedding, even without a man present, anyone glancing at it could guess what had transpired. I put on an innocent expression. "If we were merely caught in a drunken mistake, I trust my sister won't hold it against me." I picked up Gu Jiuzhao's robe, which had flown to the floor, and blinked my clear eyes innocently yet sincerely. "Your Highness, I never intended to use this matter to blackmail you." Gu Jiuzhao looked at me with a completely new expression. "Sister, if you don't agree, I'll push open the door and come in." Jiang Jinrong's voice came through, sharp and demanding. Under Gu Jiuzhao's watchful gaze, I hurriedly pulled on my outer robe and stepped out from behind the screen, saying, "Sister, I'm a bit tipsy. I'll rest here for a while." "Is that so?" Jiang Jinrong's tone carried a hint of sarcasm. "Why does your voice sound so hoarse, little sister? Does drunkenness hurt your throat?" I feigned a cough. Perhaps the wine caught a chill. "In that case, I must come in and see for myself." With that, Jiang Jinrong pushed open the door from outside. Accompanying her were mother and several well-known noblewomen. This was the same group that had come to catch me in the act in my previous life. Panicked, I clutched my chest, but that only drew their immediate attention to the marks on my body. Combined with the lingering, sultry heat still hanging in the room, everyone's expressions shifted subtly. The noblewomen exchanged knowing glances. My mother hissed, her voice low with fury, "Jinha, what have you been doing in here?" "Mother, I haven't done anything," I said, backing away 2 steps in a classic case of denying what's obvious, shielding the screen behind me. Jiang Jinrong's gaze was pure aggression as she fixed it on the screen and me. "Sister, you weren't engaging in illicit affairs with some lowly man in this room, were you?" "Sister, I don't know what you're talking about." Jiang Jinrong always presented herself as cultured and considerate to others, but now, in her zeal to crush me, she revealed a bitter disappointment, as if scolding an unpromising iron. "I told you she needed strict supervision after returning home. Your foster mother was a courtesan. You were raised by her, soaked in her ways. Could it be you've become like those women, unable to live without a man for even a moment?" Sister, however unworthy my foster mother may be, she is still your birth mother. Please restrain your words. Jiang Jinrong loathed anyone mentioning her true origins. Stung by my public remark, her expression hardened instantly, a mere courtesan, to be spoken of by my golden mouth as the greatest honor she could receive after death. In my past life, when I was framed in the pavilion, I could only cry and beg for mercy. Jiang Jinrong had comforted me with a kindly expression then, leading me to believe she was a good sister. Now, I merely exchanged a few sharp words with her, and her true nature was laid bare. Daring to consort with men at your coming-of-age ceremony, no wonder your voice is hoarse. Jiang Jinrong pressed relentlessly. Who is this adulterer? Sister, how can you slander my virtue without a shred of evidence? My voice trembled on the edge of tears, the last syllables soft and broken. Jiang Jinrong thought my tears stemmed from guilt, but in truth, I wept only for Gu Jiuzhao to hear. My foster mother had once been the most renowned courtesan in her youth. She taught me that to capture a man's heart, even crying requires technique. Sister, you insist I have a lover and bring all these officials and noblewomen here. Could this be a premeditated attempt to catch me in the act? I clung desperately to the screen. I fell into an inexplicable drunken stupor today. Was this your doing? Jiang Jinrong, struck at her core, grew impatient. Whether you're innocent or not depends on whether there's a lover behind that screen. Move aside. She shoved me aside forcefully. I stumbled weakly, knocking the screen over with me. With a thud, there he was, a man seated upright on the bed, his back to us, amidst the disheveled gauze curtains. My sister gloated, but I breathed a huge sigh of relief. He hadn't had the heart to leave me to face this mess alone. At least he was a man of responsibility. The crowd gasped. Jiang Jinho was indeed meeting with a man in secret. To do such a thing during her coming-of-age ceremony. What a disgrace to the Chancellor's household. My mother screamed, Jinhe. You're truly beyond redemption. Who is this adulterer? No, mother. I knelt on the floor, frantically explaining. Jiang Jinrong had already approached the bedside, her expression confident. Who the adulterer is? I'll see for myself. Turn around. Her command cut through the air, directed at the man on the bed. He remained motionless. I crawled on my knees to Jiang Jinrong's feet. Sister, this is all my fault. I'll hang myself with a white silk cord if need be. Please don't torment him. Move aside. Jiang Jinrong kicked me aside. She believed the man before her was Duan Yuan, the scholar she had arranged. The scholar dared disobey her command. A surge of inexplicable fury rose within her. She slammed her palm onto the man's shoulder, her tone even harsher. I said, turn around. The man finally turned. His sharp features bore a grim, authoritative glare. He stared coldly at Jiang Jinrong. The adulterer is this prince. Are you satisfied now, Jinrong? Jiang Jinrong's eyes widened in terror. Why, your highness? Someone, no one knew who first, collapsed to their knees with a thud. How could it be you, your highness? Jiang Jinrong trembled and stammered as if her world had collapsed. She suddenly turned to look at me. I raised my hand to touch my throat, silently taunting her. Aren't you curious why my voice is hoarse, sister? Of course it's because my brother-in-law hurt me. 7 you bitch. It was you. Jiang Jinrong realized she'd fallen into a trap. Furious and cursing, she lunged toward me, only to be yanked away by a pair of strong hands. Gu Jiuzhao shielded me behind him, his expression subtle as he studied Jiang Jinrong. In his memory, Jiang Jinrong had always been gentle and considerate, virtuous and well-mannered. Yet just now, she had pressed forward with such viciousness, her face twisted in a hideous snarl as she hurled curses, no different from a shrew. This was a world apart from the Jiang Jinrong he had admired. Or perhaps this was her true nature? Raised in the palace, he had seen countless smiling tigers and two-faced schemers. Could Jiang Jinrong be one of them? Gu Jiuzhao's gaze grew icy and piercing. Under his stare, Jiang Jinrong suddenly realized her own indiscretion. She hastily knelt, adopting her most practiced innocent posture. Your Highness, I feared someone might poison you to frame you. That's why I lost my composure in my panic. Jiang Jinrong declared with certainty, Your Highness and I were classmates for years. I know you best. You've always exercised self-restraint and propriety, never succumbing to 1,000 cups. How could you possibly be so intoxicated today that you'd lose control like this? Someone must have laced the wine. They had ulterior motives. Tears welled in my eyes. Sister, with your insinuations, are you trying to frame me for drugging His Royal Highness? You're still pretending. Seeing me cower behind Gu Zhao, Jiang Jinrong's rage flared. If it wasn't you, then who else could it be? The sole beneficiary of this incident is you, Jiang Jinhe. Proof is simple, just summon a physician to take his pulse. See if His Highness has been poisoned. Gu Zhao had precisely this in mind. To ensure fairness, he dispatched a trusted aide directly to the front hall to fetch Imperial Physician Li from the banquet. Thus, the entire gathering was stirred by this development. After taking Prince Gu Zhao's pulse, Imperial Physician Li quickly delivered his verdict. Your Highness exhibits a severe imbalance of yin and yang within your body, with intense internal heat. This is the classic pulse pattern of damage caused by aphrodisiacs. You have clearly been poisoned by a potent, lustful toxin. If this poison is not neutralized promptly, it will at best damage your vital essence, and at worst cause your qi and blood to reverse, leading to death. Who could be so vile as to poison a prince? As the physician detailed the toxin's properties, Jiang Jinrong remained utterly unflinching. From the moment she resolved to poison me, she sought only two outcomes, either my disgraceful death in agony, or my capture in flagranti delicto, ruining my reputation. But these underhanded schemes have now been redirected onto the man she cherishes most. The room had long since filled with onlookers. The general, who maintained close ties with the Prince of Chen's household, declared, the Chancellor's family has no regard for their own lives, daring to use such methods against His Highness the Prince of Chen. Your Highness, please calm your anger. My parents knelt on the floor. Regardless of who administered the poison, the Prince of Chen had nearly met with disaster within the Chancellor's residence. Father, mother, you need not apologize. His Highness the Prince of Chen is benevolent and virtuous. He would never punish the innocent. Jiang Jinrong spoke for the Prince of Chen with the authority of a mistress of the house. The most urgent matter now is to find the person who administered the poison. She fixed her gaze on me. Jinhe, dare you let the Imperial Physician examine your pulse? I gripped my own wrist, wary. What do you mean by that, sister? If you too were poisoned by the lust-inducing toxin, it might be excusable. But if your pulse is normal, showing no signs of poisoning, it proves you remained fully conscious. A sensible young lady of noble birth, encountering a prince who was clearly delirious, should have done what was proper, called for physicians, sought remedies. She should not have seduced him into bed. Isn't this precisely how you intend to climb your way into the Prince Chen's household, to become his consort? Jiang Jinrong lifted her hand to adjust my collar, exposing me with contempt. Don't pretend you were forcibly defiled. This was entirely your doing. You just wanted to force His Highness Prince Chen to marry you on your coming-of-age ceremony, didn't you? That drugged wine had harmed Gu Zhao, so Jiang Jinrong assumed I hadn't drunk it. Her gaze now overflowed with blatant murderous intent. Even if her scheme was exposed, she would crush me in this game. Gripping my own wrist, I stumbled back 2 steps and denied it vehemently. I didn't drug the prince. I'm a victim too. If you didn't, why are you hiding? A mocking voice cut through the air. I turned to see my biological older brother, Jiang Haoyu. He stepped beside Jiang Jinrong and addressed Prince Chen, Your Highness, this poison is so potent. If both were drugged, only Jiang Jinhe would be innocent. If Jiang Jinhe remained lucid while only you were intoxicated by passion. It's hard not to suspect she drugged you herself to seduce the prince. I stared at Jiang Haoyu. I was the one who shared his striking features as his biological sister. Yet now, to favor Jiang Jinrong, his words left me no room for maneuver. According to Chiqua's marriage customs, if a woman has a brother, he should escort her out of her parental home upon her wedding day. In my previous life, I married a poor scholar. Jiang Haoyu merely sent a household servant to deal with me, and that servant delivered a message. The eldest young master says your conduct is scandalous. Though we share blood, he is ashamed to be associated with you. After your marriage, you must fend for yourself. Later, when Jiang Jinrong married, Jiang Haoyu not only escorted her all the way but reportedly wept until his eyes were red. The chill in my heart was instantaneous. I had long given up on these so-called blood relatives. The only one I could ever rely on was myself. The moment Jiang Haoyu spoke, voices from the crowd began to rally support for Jiang Jinrong. The county princess of the Qi family sneered, "Everyone knows Prince Qin and Jinrong are deeply in love, all that's missing is the imperial decree of marriage." This Jiang Jinhua must have drugged the prince to steal this match, hoping to make a done deal forcing the prince to marry her. The He family's heir sneered, "Blood ties may be precious, but after being lost for 18 years and raised by such people, this so-called biological daughter truly pales in comparison to Jinrong, a genuine noble lady meticulously cultivated." The young duke of the Zhang family declared loudly, "Jiang Jinhe, stop pretending. Fess up, did you drug the prince to steal Jinrong's marriage? This was your coming-of-age ceremony. How reckless of you." These three, born into nobility, were known alongside Jiang Jinrong as the four gentlemen of the imperial city. When I was first recognized and brought back to the capital, these three lured me to the Jade Pavilion, claiming they'd host a banquet for me. Midway through the meal, these aristocratic scions all made excuses to leave, leaving me alone to foot the bill. Only then did I learn that such a modest spread cost 100 taels of silver in the imperial city. Having just been recognized by the Prime Minister's household, I carried only a few taels of silver and felt utterly trapped, not knowing what to do. In the end, the proprietor detained me in the restaurant until nightfall, when Jiang Haoyu finally arrived with a dark expression to take me away. That day, I lost all face. Rumors spread throughout the imperial city that the newly recognized legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household was a nouveau riche, daring to order the most expensive dishes at Jade Tower to show off the moment she returned. Upon returning to the mansion, Jiang Jinrong and her three friends were waiting for me at the gate. Jiang Jinrong stepped forward, clasping my hand with a forced smile. "Jinhe, my friends were just teasing you. Don't take it to heart." Though she said this, her friends, including Jiang Jinrong herself, scrutinized me with eyes as harsh as if examining a rat crawling out of a sewer into the sunlight. That day, I nearly drowned in embarrassment and self-loathing. Having spent 18 years as the favored daughter of the Jiang household, Jiang Jinrong had long cultivated a network of connections centered around her within the imperial city. Regardless of right or wrong, these privileged young nobles would defend her unconditionally. Just as now, they all chimed in at once, leaving me no chance to defend myself. The noblewomen and ministers nearby also eyed me with subtle glances, as if they had already decided the truth of the matter. Jiang Jinrong, holding all the advantage, coaxed softly, "As a woman myself, I understand your thoughts. You were raised outside the family, and your foster mother was a courtesan. It's no wonder you picked up some lowly tricks." I didn't, I shook my head tearfully, retreating 2 steps in fear. "You didn't?" Jiang Jinrong closed in on me. "Then why are you so guilty? Let the imperial physician examine your pulse. Everything will be clear." 9 I looked up at Gu Jiuzhao for help. "Your Highness, believe me. I was framed. I'm innocent." Gu Jiuzhao gripped my arm. "Jinhe, let the physician examine your pulse. If you are innocent, it will convince everyone." My arm, held by him, began to tremble uncontrollably. Jiang Jinrong's eyes flashed with triumph as he snatched my arm away. Physician Li smoothly took it, placing his fingers on my pulse. I shrank back, trying to pull my arm free. Jiang Jinrong's friend snickered. "Look at her guilty expression. She must have laced the wine." "No doubt about it." Women raised in brothels are all the same, throwing themselves at men's beds, thinking they'll rise from rags to riches. How laughable! Chancellor Jiang, forgive my frankness, but Jinrong's virtue surpasses your own daughter's by 100-fold. Silence. The matter remains unresolved. Who gave you permission to speak thus? Did you learn no manners during your imperial tutoring? Gu Jiuzhao's sharp rebuke finally silenced the arrogant aristocratic youths, though grudgingly. Only Jiang Haoyu remained indignant. "Your Highness, she's already so guilty-looking, what need is there for verification? She clearly missed Jinhe's pulse." Before Jiang Haoyu could finish, Imperial Physician Li suddenly stroked his graying beard and frowned. "This pulse." Jiang Jinrong pressed impatiently. "What of the pulse? She has no Chinese herbs." "She lied, didn't she?" Dr. Li released his grip and delivered his verdict. This pulse is as agitated and rapid as His Highness Prince Chen's. It indicates blood and qi depletion following injury from aphrodisiacs. Jiang Jinrong gasped. What did you say? The previously chattering aristocratic offspring, along with Jiang Haoyu who had been eager to condemn her, all froze in place. Imperial physician Li delivered his final verdict. Both were likely poisoned simultaneously with potent aphrodisiacs, and Miss Jinhe's symptoms are more severe than the prince's. During an episode, one inevitably loses mental clarity, thoughts and actions become uncontrollable. If grave mistakes were committed then, they were truly innocent. Jiang Jinrong erupted in fury. Impossible. This can't be true. The physician must have misdiagnosed. Dr. Li stroked his beard. Having served in the Imperial Medical Bureau for over 40 years, this is the first time anyone has questioned my medical skill. Embarrassed beyond measure, Jiang Jinrong immediately turned her accusation toward me. If you have nothing to hide, why are you so nervous? Why did you dodge when the physician wanted to take your pulse? I avoided it because... I rolled up my sleeve as I spoke, revealing my arm covered in bruises and red marks, evidence of recent intimacy. Scanning the assembled crowd, I declared innocently, I feared the physician might expose these marks during the pulse diagnosis, tarnishing the prince's reputation and compromising the decorum expected of a noble lady. I turned to Jiang Jinrong and her three friends, my gaze challenging. Wouldn't you agree? 10 These marks, bite marks and bruises, were all the work of Gu Jiuzhao in his moment of passion. Gu Jiuzhao looked deeply ashamed. He lifted me into his embrace, lowered my sleeve, then unfastened his own outer robe to cover me completely. Completely swallowed by his outer robe, I caught the lingering scent of his agarwood perfume. The crowd that had cheered loudest earlier now panicked. She really is innocent. Then who drugged her? Could there be assassins at the banquet? I think I saw Jinrong offering wine to the prince and that genuine heiress. Jiang Jinrong was already flustered when Jiang Haoyu stepped forward. Even if Jiang Jinhe was drugged, it could be she sacrificed herself for the Qin prince's honor, a desperate gambit. I eyed Jiang Haoyu coldly. Truly my own brother, he'd read my mind completely. I had indeed consumed that drug, but only after luring Gu Jiuzhao into bed. Jiang Jinrong had administered the most potent aphrodisiac poison. In my past life, when I married the scholar, I accidentally fell from the wedding palanquin, injuring my palm and drawing blood. The physician treating my wound remarked that my blood smelled unusual, asking if I'd consumed some potent love potion for the wedding night. This potion has a nickname, mating mandarin ducks. It was originally used in folk medicine to breed livestock. When used on humans, its effects are too potent and toxic. Once ingested, regardless of gender or status, it forces people to mate as a pair. To be precise, mating mandarin ducks is a lust poison. If it lingers in the body, it takes at least 10 days to half a month to be completely expelled. The barefoot doctor kindly warned me, when the drug takes effect, the blood of the poisoned person becomes toxic. So, when Gu Jiuzhao's poison kicked in, I clutched his neck and bit down hard, drawing blood. To avoid appearing deliberate, I bit other places on his body until the skin broke. I sucked the blood from his body as if drinking poison. At that moment, I was like a demon from hell, clinging to a noble deity, viciously sucking his blood as a path to redemption. Those who have tasted death will stop at nothing to survive. Midway through our union, my love poison also took effect. By the time Gu Jiuzhao was sated, the poison still raged within me. Though I could suppress it, my pulse remained easily confused, leading the imperial physician to believe both Gu Jiuzhao and I had been poisoned simultaneously, and that I suffered more severely. Thus, I became the perfect victim. 11 Facing Jiang Haoyu's accusations now, I retorted through tears, are you implying, brother, that to climb into the prince's household, I would willingly sacrifice my virtue, disregard my own life, and administer a lethal dose of lust poison to myself? Is there truly someone in this world so greedy and foolish? Or do you see me as such a wretched person? Jiang Haoyu was rendered speechless by my retort. I then turned to my parents. Do I truly appear so utterly despicable to you? Father, mother, I am your own flesh and blood daughter. When Jiang Jinrong slandered me, was he not slandering every member of the Jiang family? The erudite chancellor lowered his eyes in shame at my question, while the dignified matriarch's gaze instantly filled with remorse. No one in the room dared speak further, a rare silence settling over the chamber. I stepped beside Gu Jiuzhao. Your Highness, recall what I said? Both you and I drank from the wine Jiang Jinrong offered. Jiang Jinrong's face turned deathly pale beside us. 12 My wine was untainted. She forced composure. Poisoning doesn't require wine, it could be on the vessels. I told Gu Jiuzhao, Your Highness, have her wine jug and cup from the offering brought for inspection. The truth will be revealed. Jiang Jinrong visibly panicked, pleading with Gu Jiuzhao, Your Highness, do you suspect me? We've known each other for years. Don't you know my character? Gu Jiuzhao's voice was deep and solemn. Jinrong, your character. Indeed, I must examine it further. Jiang Jinrong's expression froze, her shoulders slumping. Had Jiang Haoyu not caught her, she would have collapsed to the ground. Even if tampering was discovered on the cup, she wasn't the only one who handled that set of wine vessels during the coming-of-age ceremony. The blame might not rest solely on her shoulders. She drew a deep breath, regaining her composure. I have nothing to hide. I fear no investigation by your highness. No sooner had she spoken than a scholar-dressed man emerged from the crowd. I must report. I must report. The crowd parted for him. The scholar wore plain cloth garments, his hands restraining a man whose attire resembled his own. His hands were bound, and he appeared to have been punched twice. Forced to his knees before the crowd, he cried out, I'm innocent. Shang Xing is slandering me. My pupils contracted sharply. The man kneeling before me, crying injustice, was Duan Yuan, the scholar I had married in my previous life. In my past life, he ambushed me by the rockery, taking advantage of my vulnerability. Afterward, he insisted I had seduced him willingly. My reputation ruined, I was forced into a marriage with the Songyang Duan family. After the wedding, Duan Yuan drank, gambled, and indulged in debauchery, using every means to bleed me dry. Driven to the edge, I smashed a vase over his head, sending him to meet the king of hell. Though he died, the vile disease he infected me with continued to torment me. Now, though time flows backward and everything repeats, I had anticipated his arrival. Yet seeing him before me, I couldn't help but shiver with dread and feel phantom pains throughout my body. Gu Jiuzhao sensed my breath quicken sharply, mistaking my reaction for fright. He drew me into his embrace, a protective posture through and through. Your Highness, Chancellor. I must report Duan Yuan's attempted misconduct. The scholar escorting Duan Yuan was Zhang Wenxuan. With the imperial examinations approaching, the outer courtyard of the Chancellor's residence housed many scholars studying there. These scholars were promising candidates the Chancellor's household had identified. If even 2 or 3 of them successfully entered officialdom, they would become valuable assets for the Chancellor's faction in the imperial court. Coming from all corners of the empire, these scholars adhered to strict gender and hierarchical boundaries. Therefore, they were not permitted to attend events like the coming-of-age ceremony for the Chancellor's daughter, nor could they trespass into the inner courtyard. Zhang Wenxuan pressed Duan Yuan against the wall as he reported to Prince Chen, early this morning, Duan Yuan sneaked toward the inner courtyard garden. The inner courtyard is where the young master and mistress reside. Fearing he might offend the noble family, I followed him and indeed saw him lurking behind the rockery. After Miss Jinhe stumbled into the inner courtyard, Duan Yuan emerged from the rockery and began searching frantically, pacing between the side rooms, opening each door one by one, as if searching for someone. A chill ran down my spine. If not for Gu Jiuzhao, if I had truly taken the poison, even hiding in a side room wouldn't have saved me. Duan Yuan would have found me and devoured me whole. 13 The front hall was hosting the Prime Minister's daughter's coming-of-age ceremony. The Chancellor has shown me great kindness. I couldn't let Duan Yuan ruin the ceremony, so I intervened and captured him. When he resisted, I even found a handkerchief laced with poison on him. Zhang Wenxuan handed over a thick handkerchief. Imperial physician Li examined it closely, brought it to his nose for a brief sniff, then immediately withdrew it. This handkerchief is also laced with aphrodisiac poison. This scholar intended to make improper advances toward Miss Jinhe. The crowd gasped in shock. I feigned fright and burrowed into Gu Jiuzhao's embrace. Gu Jiuzhao, enraged, kicked Duan Yuan to the ground. How dare you? Who ordered you to commit such vile acts in the Prime Minister's residence? Seeing his scheme exposed, Duan Yuan immediately looked toward Jiang Jinrong. Jiang Jinrong's expression flashed with panic. What are you looking at me for? Duan Yuan's eyes darted around frantically. In my past life, I'd been married to him for 3 years. I knew him well, a foolish and wicked man. At this critical moment, he'd surely betrayed Jiang Jinrong as the mastermind just to save his own skin. I didn't even need to coerce a confession, I only had to wait for him to speak. Duan Yuan did indeed fix his gaze on Jiang Jinrong. Her face turned deathly pale as she desperately tried to intimidate him with her eyes. But petty men like Duan Yuan are hardest to control at life-or-death moments. True to form, he ignored Jiang Jinrong's warning and chose self-preservation. The only one who dare order me to do such a thing is Jiang, the Empress is approaching. His words were cut short by a eunuch's sudden shout from outside. My clenched fist relaxed limply, so close. Jiang Jinrong's heart nearly leapt into her throat before plummeting back down. The Empress had always favored Jiang Jinrong. Before Jiang Jinrong was exposed as the fake heiress, she had been the carefully cultivated, pure-blooded noble daughter of the Prime Minister's household. The Prince of Qin needed the Prime Minister's support, and the Empress had hinted more than once that Jiang Jinrong was her favored choice for Crown Princess. Jiang Jinrong touched the jade-wrapped silk bracelet on her right wrist, a treasure the Empress had bestowed upon her. Now, though exposed as a fake heiress, Jiang Jinrong was suspected of seducing a prince. Having witnessed countless palace intrigues, the Empress was deeply suspicious and guarded, cherishing Prince Qin like the apple of her eye. She would never tolerate anyone scheming against him through intimate affairs. Jiang Jinrong flashed a triumphant smile, relieved to have survived this ordeal. Her Majesty the Empress was her ultimate protector. 14 The Empress's imperial carriage pulled up outside the side chamber, and the crowd knelt in unison to pay their respects. Wrapped in Gu Jiuzhao's outer robe, I knelt respectfully, almost immediately sensing the Empress's gaze piercing through me. Everything left untidied on the bed revealed the absurdity of what had just transpired. Her Majesty's expression turned icy. What has transpired here? Before Gu Jiuzhao could respond, Jiang Jinrong blurted out, Your Majesty. Jiang Jin he used the base tactics of a brothel to seduce His Highness Prince Qin. Empress Zhang had only one son, Gu Jiuzhao. Years ago, she had carried a child, only to suffer a miscarriage at the hands of consort Li. Li had been a kept mistress of a former dynasty official. During an incognito imperial tour, the emperor, drunk aboard a painted boat, had spent a night of passion with the flattering Li. Li was elevated to consort Li. Once in the palace, she grew arrogant from favor, clashing with the Empress. The Empress's 5-month-old princess was lost. Though consort Li had long perished in the cold palace, Empress Zhang despised her kind most intensely. Today marked the Empress's first meeting with me, yet Jiang Jinrong's single remark branded me as a second consort Li, utterly ruining my standing in her eyes. Empress Zhang's gaze toward me was indeed unkind. Gu Jiuzhao tried to explain for me, but Empress Zhang had no patience left to listen, no matchmaker, no betrothal gifts, secret trysts or unfaithfulness. She looked at me coldly. I grant you white silk to end your life. This palace will ensure you die with dignity. 15 Gu Jiuzhao gasped, Mother. Jiang Jinhua is also a victim. How can you claim she's entirely innocent? Do you truly fathom a woman's heart? Don't follow in your father's footsteps, being deceived and still counting her money for her. My face remained composed, but a thin sheen of sweat broke out on my back. My petty tricks were truly like showing off in front of a master in the presence of the Empress. As the highest-ranking person present, no one dared defy her decision. Though my parents seemed to want to plead for me, in the end, neither dared speak up. Just as in my past life, they would have married me off without hesitation for the sake of their reputation. When the 2 maids came to escort me away, my gaze locked with Jiang Jinrong's. She looked like a triumphant fox, cunningly waiting for my demise. The palace maids were brutally forceful, immediately trying to rip off the outer robe draped over me. Once it fell, my disheveled state would only deepen Empress Zhang's loathing. But just as the cloak was torn open at the hem, another pair of strong hands swiftly gathered it back together. I looked up to find Gu Jiuzhao pulling me into his embrace. His voice boomed with conviction, If we speak of loss of virtue, today your son has also forfeited a gentleman's loyalty. Since mother intends to grant death, why not provide an extra length of white silk to hang your son as well? 16 The Empress gasped, My son, you. As Gu Jiuzhao defended me, I could even hear the resonance in his chest. Everyone present was shaken by the Prince of Chen's words and actions. To impose the death penalty without inquiring into the cause and effect, how is this any different from indiscriminate killing, mother? Gu Jiuzhao swept his gaze across the room. And you all! The Empress is here to uphold justice. Have you all gone mute? No sooner had he spoken than the guards who had gone to investigate returned with their report. Gu Jiuzhao escorted the Empress to the seat of honor. This matter has its origins. A villain has set a trap. Since your Majesty is here, why not hear the evidence before making a decision? The Empress had no choice but to take her seat. The guard, holding the wine vessel, reported, Your Majesty, Your Highness, the wine vessel used by Jiang Jinrong today indeed bears traces of poison. The imperial physician has confirmed this poison to be the potent folk remedy mating couple. This substance is traditionally used in the countryside for livestock breeding. The reason His Royal Highness and Miss Jiang behaved so uncharacteristically today lies entirely with these items. All eyes turned to Jiang Jinrong. Jiang Jinrong immediately protested, her voice breaking, Someone must have framed me. These wine vessels passed through countless hands. Your Royal Highness, Your Majesty. I too have been victimized. The Empress's earlier fury had been suppressed by Gu Jiuzhao. Now, her reason returned. Hearing the imperial physician say that the lust poison had nearly cost Gu Jiuzhao his life, she grew stern. Jinrong, could it be that you are crying thief when you yourself are the thief? 17 Your Majesty. I didn't. Jiang Jinrong knelt on the ground, flustered and babbling incoherently. Everyone stared at her as if watching a clown on stage. Her three aristocratic friends fell silent. I thought Jiang Jinrong was surely doomed. But then, Gu Jiuzhao sighed softly, the truth is plain as day, it was the scholar Duan Yuan who coveted the minister's daughter with wicked intent, sneaking into the inner courtyard to poison her wine. I jerked my head up from his embrace. Gu Jiuzhao issued an order that brooked no argument, dragged Duan Yuan away. Castrate him, then hang him. At this, Duan Yuan immediately cursed, I was just following orders. The mastermind was Jiang. Before he could finish, guards rammed clubs into his mouth, shattering his tongue and teeth. Not a single coherent word escaped him. I hurriedly protested, this isn't so simple. The mastermind behind it all was Jiang Jinrong, why shift all blame onto Duan Yuan? Gu Jiuzhao's hand on my shoulder suddenly tightened, a force meant to restrain and warn. I froze, watching him stare down at the disheveled, panicked Jiang Jinrong. From this day forth, Jiang Jinrong is confined to his quarters for reflection. Without this prince's command, he shall not set foot outside the pavilion. I understood. Gu Jiuzhao had pinned all the blame on Duan Yuan solely to protect Jiang Jinrong. He'd even destroyed all the evidence I'd painstakingly gathered for this purpose. Then he abruptly pulled me before the Empress and forced me to kneel. Mother, Jiang Jinhe inadvertently cured the son of the lust poison. Since she is innocent, this son will take responsibility for her. Father had already intended to unite the Prince Chen's household with the Chancellor's through marriage. Jiang Jinhe is the Chancellor's true daughter. Therefore, she shall fulfill the betrothal. The Empress gasped, Jiuzhao, what do you mean? Gu Jiuzhao clasped my hand tightly and declared loudly before everyone, this prince will formally propose with 3 letters and 6 rights, marrying the Chancellor's daughter, Jiang Jinhe, as the Crown Prince's consort. 18 Gu Jiuzhao's actions preserved my honor while extinguishing the Empress's intent to kill me. The Prince of Qin needed the Chancellor's literary faction. The Empress knew Jiang Jinrong was not entirely innocent in this affair and grew to despise her. She finally relented, allowing Gu Jiuzhao to personally petition the emperor for the imperial decree of marriage. Only then did the farce of the coming-of-age ceremony come to an end. After the empress returned to the palace, I overheard Jiang Jinrong and Gu Jiuzhao conversing in the pavilion. Jiang Jinrong wept bitterly. Is your highness sulking at me? I am the one who truly loves you. How could you say today that Jiang Jinhe would be your consort? Do you know who raised Jiang Jinhe while she was lost? Her methods are vile. Today, you've all been deceived by her. Jinrong, even now, you still lie to me. Gu Jiuzhao held a white porcelain cup before Jiang Jinrong, whose tear-streaked face froze. The rim and base of this cup are laced with poison. The imperial physician says any liquid poured into it instantly transforms into a potent aphrodisiac. Poisoning the wine would have been too obvious, so you chose to tamper with the cup instead. If I'm not mistaken, you also arranged for Duan Yuan to enter the inner courtyard. You intended to drug Jiang Jinhua, then orchestrate Duan Yuan to destroy her virtue. That way, you'd be the only heiress of the Prime Minister's household. The sole candidate for the Crown Prince's consort, correct? The evidence was irrefutable. Gu Jiuzhao was no fool, he swiftly saw through every one of Jiang Jinrong's schemes. Your Highness. Jiang Jinrong's dark schemes were laid bare under the sun. Gu Jiuzhao's piercing gaze made her skin crawl. You marked the bottom of the wine cup with a red sign, but the mark was too subtle. You ended up mixing up the cups and offered the poisoned wine to this prince. That's why we have this farce today. Jinrong, you even tried to use my mother's hand to take Jiang Jinhe's life. What a clever scheme, using others as your blade. Jiang Jinrong, you have the audacity to exploit the royal family to plot murder. No. No, Your Highness. Jiang Jinrong knelt in terror, it's true. I did intend to poison Jiang Jinhe, but only because she and Duan Yuan were already secretly involved. I only wished to grant them their wish. Jiang Jinhe even said she wanted to elope with Duan Yuan. I merely intended to fulfill their wish on the day of her coming-of-age ceremony. Even if the truth came out, she still sought to smear me with every last bit of filth. These words, half-truths and half-lies, would sow seeds of doubt in others' minds even if they didn't believe them. I never intended to harm Your Highness, how could I dare? It was Jiang Jinhe. She swapped the cups in the chaos, poisoning you. She clutched Gu Jiuzhao's robe hem desperately. Your Highness, I've admired you for years. I've dreamed of becoming your lawful wife. How could I ever hurt you? This is all Jiang Jinhua's doing. She's the one who framed Your Highness. 19 even now, you show no remorse. With a crash, Gu Jiuzhao smashed the white porcelain cup in his hand to pieces. The guards have investigated thoroughly. That set of wine vessels was touched only by you from start to finish. And Duan Yuan, a Jiang family banknote was found in his quarters, bearing the scent of your rare orchid perfume. That fragrance has been yours since childhood. This prince will never misjudge. I did not present this evidence directly to the Empress Dowager. I had Duan Yuan's tongue torn out instead. Otherwise, it would be you receiving the Empress Dowager's death sentence today. Jiang Jinrong wept uncontrollably. Gu Jiuzhao seized her tear-streaked face. Poisoning a prince is a crime punishable by exterminating 9 generations. Jiang Jinrong, I spare you today as repayment for your years of devotion. From this day forward, there is no further bond between us. You shall never become the princess consort of Qin, nor shall you ever target Jiang Jinhe again. Your actions against her now are your actions against me. Your Highness, are these words meant to break my heart? Gu Jiuzhao sneered coldly. The warmth wine for Jiang Jinhe was handed to her by your own hand. Jinhe, this was all your own choice. Gu Jiuzhao flung Jiang Jinrong's hand away, swept past the scattered porcelain shards, and strode off with a flourish of his sleeves. No matter how hysterically Jiang Jinrong wept, he never once looked back. I concealed myself behind a large tree, remaining undetected by Gu Jiuzhao. 20 at dusk, the execution of Duan Yuan was to take place in the rear courtyard of the Prime Minister's residence. Given the disgraceful nature of the matter, the Prime Minister had secured Gu Jiuzhao's approval to carry out the execution discreetly within the confines of the residence. 2 seasoned, burly guards were tasked with the execution. I approached them and asked, this man tried to ruin my reputation. Might I vent my anger, brothers? The guards served the prince's household. With Prince Qin publicly declaring his intent to marry me today, in their eyes, I was already the future princess consort. Certainly. Though we fear it might soil your hands. It won't. I drew the dagger I'd prepared long ago. I'll only stab him twice. I won't delay your duties. The guards thoughtfully checked the ropes binding Duan Yuan's limbs, confirming they were tight before allowing me near him. Duan Yuan's tongue and teeth had been torn to shreds, yet his eyes still gleamed with lecherous lust when he saw me. He showed no fear upon seeing the knife in my hand. In my past life, when he beat me in the chamber, I too had taken up a knife in resistance. But he remained utterly unfazed, even taunting me. Even with a knife, my little wife can only inflict some superficial scratches. It only excites your husband more. He was wrong. Gripping the dagger with both hands, my first strike severed Duan Yuan's manhood. As blood spattered, Duan Yuan let out an inhuman scream, his body convulsing in spasms. The two guards were startled. Unflinching, I swung again, gouging out Duan Yuan's insolent eyes. His screams filled the air, yet I felt nothing but satisfaction. In my past life, this man defiled my purity, humiliated my dignity, and ruined my health. His eyes, like a shadow, had haunted me, trapping me in Songyang County, confined within the Duan family's inner quarters for 3 long years, 3 whole years. I had longed to sever his root of evil, to gouge out his eyes. I had longed to do this. The night breeze caressed my face as half the hatred festering in my chest was released. I tossed the dagger aside, instructing the 2 guards to continue their punishment. I told them they could freely recount this scene to His Royal Highness Prince Chen. I intended to dispel Gu Jiuzhao's suspicions about me and Duan Yuan. As long as I was ruthless enough, Jiang Jinrong's scheme to destroy my reputation was actually quite easy to dismantle. The 2 guards now held a measure of awe for me, swiftly hoisting Duan Yuan onto the gallows. I watched coldly as Duan Yuan was strangled to death. Had Prince Gu not shown mercy, Jiang Jinrong should have joined him on the gallows today. Administering poison to a prince deserves death 10 times over. Yet the prince himself spared him. That scene in the pavilion, while Prince Chen appeared to sever ties with Jiang Jinrong, his gaze betrayed a mix of love and hate. In my past life, Gu Jiuzhao and Jiang Jinrong were deeply devoted after marriage. Gu Jiuzhao is a man of passion, which is why I can use him. But his affection will also hinder my revenge. I must find a way to make Prince Chen and the entire Jiang family utterly despise Jiang Jinrong. I would drive the wild dove occupying the nest back to where it belonged. 3 days later, the imperial decree granting the marriage arrived. Prince Chen's mansion swiftly sent betrothal gifts to the Prime Minister's residence. On the day the gifts were delivered, Gu Jiuzhao and I met briefly. He told me to prepare for the wedding without worry. Among the gifts was an exquisitely crafted golden hairpin bestowed by the emperor. Your Highness, would you mind placing it in my hair? Just as Gu Jiuzhao lifted the hairpin, a maid burst in frantically, "It's terrible. Miss Jinrong has hanged herself in the pavilion." Gu Jiuzhao's expression darkened. He dropped the hairpin and dashed toward Jiang Jinrong's Wufang pavilion. Father, mother, and my brother all rushed there as well. I picked up the golden hairpin from the tray, clearly my special day, yet everyone was concerned only with Jiang Jinrong. When I reached Wufang Pavilion, Jiang Jinrong lay sobbing in Gu Jiuzhao's arms, pounding his chest and declaring she didn't want to live, had no face to live, and would atone for her sins by dying. The white silk scarf lay nearby, yet not a single mark of strangulation graced her neck. Even a fake suicide attempt couldn't be staged more convincingly. Such a clumsy charade, yet it tugged at everyone's heartstrings. The Chancellor said, "Why torment yourself so?" The mistress of the house said, "Jinrong, you still have your parents. We all treat you like our own daughter. If you've made a mistake, we're all willing to help you make amends." Jiang Haoyu added, "Exactly. Even if the sky falls, your brother will hold it up for you. So this is what life feels like when someone has your back." In my past life, when I was disgraced and ruined, these blood relatives couldn't wait to cast me out. They never once spoke such comforting words to me. Jiang Jinrong gazed tearfully at Gu Jiuzhao, who sighed helplessly, "Your crime doesn't warrant death. There's no need for this. Without your Highness, Jinrong would rather die than live. Your Highness, Jinrong can hardly breathe." She weakly nestled into Gu Jiuzhao's embrace. He didn't push her away, only ordered someone to fetch the imperial physician. The way Gu Jiuzhao looked at me always seemed like pitying a weak, pitiful creature. Yet when he looked at Jiang Jinrong, it was with an affection that couldn't bear to let go. 22 The imperial physician examined her and said Jiang Jinrong suffered from pent-up emotions. Gu Jiuzhao relented, allowing her to leave her confinement in the tower and move about the Prime Minister's residence. My wedding to Gu Jiuzhao was set for the 9th day of the following month. The entire residence bustled with wedding preparations. Flowers and festive silk adorned every corner, yet Jiang Jinrong grew increasingly sullen at the sight. 3 days before the wedding, as I reviewed wedding candy designs in the courtyard, Jiang Haoyu stormed toward me in fury. Why did you have the wedding candy delivered to Wufang Pavilion? Intentionally tormenting Jinrong, is that it? I protested innocently, brother, I only wanted her to taste the sweets too. The imperial physician said her heart is knotted with sorrow. Perhaps sharing in my joy might help her heartache heal faster. You dare speak in such a sarcastic tone. Brother, you misunderstand your sister. I turned and picked up a tray of sweets from the table. Brother, taste these for me. Which flavor is best? We can serve the honored guests on our wedding day. Jiang Haoyu raised his hand and knocked the lacquered tray from my grasp. Assorted wedding candies spilled onto the floor. Who wants to share your bad luck? He spat out the words and stormed off, flinging his sleeves behind him. Dyer stepped forward to help me gather the candies, but I waved her off. Go tell father and mother that brother and I had a fight today. Though Dyer didn't understand my intent, she obeyed. By noon, the entire Jiang residence knew that Jiang Haoyu had quarreled with me over Jiang Jinrong. Come evening, Jiang Jinrong came to see me, dressed in simple elegance. Adopting the appearance of a sickly beauty, she spoke softly and kindly. Jinhe, my elder brother quarreled with you today because of me. I've already spoken to him. I replied lazily, you two really are close as siblings. Having lived in this household for 18 years, we're closer than blood siblings. Jiang Jinrong smiled as she took my hand. I was the one at fault before, wanting too much. After this illness, I've come to terms with many things. Brother is waiting for you at the Jade Swallow Pavilion. He wishes to apologize in person. For the sake of our sibling bond, you can't refuse him. I know you have some misunderstandings about me, but if I don't go, I'm afraid I'll earn a reputation for disrespecting my elder brother. You don't understand, the imperial family places immense importance on reputation. I can't marry into the palace now, but Jinhe, you mustn't bring shame upon the Prime Minister's residence either. I stared at her hesitantly. Jiang Jinrong laughed. This is the Prime Minister's residence, it's your home. Do you think I'd eat you? Fine. I'll go with you to see brother. I followed Jiang Jinrong to the Jade Swallow Pavilion in the inner courtyard. The pavilion was hidden within the garden's bamboo grove, its surroundings sparse with few people beyond the bamboo. The pavilion doors stood open, with a screen at the entrance casting dim light. Jiang Jinrong took my hand and led me up the steps. As soon as we reached the doorway, I caught a whiff of a familiar, exotic fragrance. Jinhe, go in and see your brother. Jiang Jinrong urged me inside, then slipped back behind me without a word. Just as she was about to shove me from behind, I spun around with a sinister smile. Jiang Jinrong, I saw this trick before in the brothel. What? The trick of luring young girls, sending lambs to the slaughter. Before Jiang Jinrong could react, I brought my hand down like a blade across her neck. Stunned by my blow, I caught her body and shoved her into the Jade Swallow Pavilion. Jiang Jinrong regained consciousness as she hit the floor. Her body felt weak and limp. When she lifted her eyes, she saw only Jiang Haoyu, his face flushed crimson, glaring at her with predatory intent, like a beast closing in on its prey. 23 pairing mandarin ducks carried a faint, peculiar fragrance, a scent most people couldn't easily detect. But I was different. In both my past and present lives, I'd dealt with this medicine. So when that faint, elusive scent wafted from the Jade Swallow Pavilion, I immediately guessed Jiang Jinrong's intent in luring me here. I couldn't tolerate Jiang Jinrong, and she couldn't tolerate me. With the wedding approaching, she wanted to use Jiang Haoyu to destroy me and the marriage rites. Then don't blame me for returning evil with evil. Sister, Jiang Haoyu's feelings for you run deeper than mere sibling affection. Enjoy it while you can. With that, I closed the door from the outside. Jiang Jinrong struggled desperately to escape the Jade Swallow Pavilion, but Jiang Haoyu, driven mad, held her arms and legs. I shut the door without locking it. Jiang Haoyu, after all, had martial arts training. His strength was more than enough to restrain Jiang Jinrong. I summoned Dyer, who was waiting outside the bamboo grove. Go to the Prince Chen's residence and report, Jiang Jinrong has vanished without a trace. She's likely attempting suicide again. Please have His Highness the Prince Chen come and see. Dyer nodded, this servant understands. I'll also inform the Chancellor and the mistress on my way. Good, Dyer. Go now. I waited outside for half an hour, listening to Jiang Jinrong's cries for half an hour. Only when someone hurried toward this direction did I slip into the bamboo grove. Father, mother, and Gu Jiuzhao arrived almost simultaneously. I emerged from the grove, pretending I'd just found the spot. Your Highness, did you find sister? No sooner had I spoken than an ambiguous female voice drifted out from within the Jade Swallow Pavilion. The mistress's expression instantly changed. Guessing what had happened, she tried to cover it up. Your Highness, Jinrong must be resting in the Jade Swallow Pavilion. Matters within the inner quarters. Perhaps I should handle them. Her words were cut short by Jiang Haoyu's low growl. The mistress and the chancellor paled instantly. They rushed forward and flung open the door, only to find their son and their adopted daughter locked in an intimate embrace on the bed, utterly oblivious to the world around them. Ah! The chancellor let out a furious, heart-wrenching cry. The mistress lunged forward, trying to pull Jiang Haoyu away, but he was lost in the moment. The matriarch trembled with rage. Jiang Jinrong! How dare you seduce my son into this? How can you justify this after all we've done to raise him? Jiang Jinrong scrambled to her feet, desperate to explain, but her face drained of color when she saw Gu Jiuzhao standing in the doorway, his gaze cold and piercing as he watched the scene unfold. Your Highness? No, Your Highness. Let me explain. She pushed Jiang Haoyu away with all her strength, struggling to get out of bed, but her legs buckled, nearly causing her to fall. Gu Jiuzhao's expression was as dark as iron, the pressure around him so thick it felt like it could be squeezed into water. He turned away coldly, but as he stepped out of the room, he suddenly halted. I followed him out, concerned. Your Highness, sister must have acted unintentionally, or perhaps she was mistaken in her drunken state. Your Highness? Gu Jiuzhao suddenly clutched his chest and coughed up a mouthful of blood. This was a sign of rage overwhelming his heart. Now, he must have completely given up on Jiang Jinrong. 24 By the time I escorted Gu Jiuzhao back to the Prince Chen's residence and returned to the Chancellor's mansion, night had deepened. Stepping into the main hall, I saw Jiang Jinrong and Jiang Haoyu kneeling before their two elders under the dim yellow light. It seemed they had already undergone an interrogation. The effects of the drug had worn off on Jiang Haoyu, and he was much more lucid, repeatedly pleading his case. Father, mother, I was drugged. This is not my fault. The Chancellor and his wife's faces were ashen, the household physician standing nearby. This was a repeat offense. The Chancellor's residence had experience with such matters and had already had his pulse checked. Jiang Haoyu had been drugged, but Jiang Jinrong had not. Who had seduced whom, who was at fault, it was crystal clear. The moment I appeared, Jiang Jinrong lunged at me. It was you. Jiang Jinhe, you're so cruel. So vicious. You made me. Her words gave way to bitter sobs, completely forgetting that if I hadn't fought back, I would have borne the grave charge of incestuous relations between siblings today. I don't know what you're talking about, sister. Brother was drugged, and only you possessed that drug. Only you have such a history. Why are you crying thief when you're the thief? I flicked Jiang Jinrong's hand away. If I'm not mistaken, sister saw she couldn't marry His Highness Prince Chen, yet feared being cast aside by the Prime Minister's household. So you're willing to throw your dignity to the wind just to become the son's wife of the Prime Minister's household, is that right? You. Jiang Jinrong was so enraged by my words that smoke seemed to rise from her head. Jiang Haoyu sprang up from the ground and shoved me forcefully away. You vile woman. Ever since you returned, our household has been filled with chaos. You're clearly framing us. I stumbled from his shove but steadied myself, fixing my gaze on the Chancellor and Lady Jiang. Father, mother, did you see that? How fiercely brother protects sister Jinrong. Since they share no blood ties, why not grant them their wish? Let sister Jinrong become my sister-in-law. The Chancellor's expression darkened to a terrifying shade of gloom. Jiang Haoyu was the sole male heir of the Chancellor's household, and the legitimate son at that. The Chancellor had long set his sights on the daughter of the Marquis of Dingen for his son's marriage. At the very least, it had to be the legitimate daughter of a duke's household. Only such a match of equal standing could forge a powerful alliance, solidifying the Jiang family's position in the imperial court. The marriages of aristocratic offspring were always a game of strategic interests. Having navigated the court's treacherous currents for years, the chancellor now, at this stage of life, pinned his hopes on his children's marriages to ascend even higher. Yet now, all was ruined by a foster daughter. His anguish was unbearable. Jiang Jinrong, having been warned by me, understood that marrying Jiang Haoyu was her only viable path forward. She had originally hoped to usurp my position, or at the very least become a favored concubine in a prince's mansion. But after Prince Chen witnessed that scene today, he must surely despise her now. With the scandal at her coming-of-age ceremony, her reputation is in tatters. No respectable young master from a prominent family would ever consider marrying her. Father, mother, things have come to this. I'm willing to marry brother Haoyu. She cried and pouted. She remained utterly oblivious to the fact that the chancellor and his wife were teetering on the brink of furious collapse. 25 Hearing Jiang Jinrong speak thus, Jiang Haoyu was both startled and delighted. He promptly declared, Father, mother, why not let me marry Jinrong? After all, she's an adopted daughter. She's been raised under your watchful eyes since childhood. You know her inside out. A daughter-in-law like this would surely put your minds at ease. How dare you? How dare you both? The chancellor roared in fury. The mistress, pushed beyond endurance, leapt from her seat and delivered a resounding slap across Jiang Jinrong's face. Jiang Jinrong reeled from the blow. All these years, I never once brought myself to strike you. Even when I learned you weren't my biological daughter, I never had the heart to blame you. Jiang Jinrong, you were born to a courtesan. For 18 years, you lived in luxury and pampering within my chancellor's mansion. Your father and I painstakingly nurtured you into a proper young lady, plotting your future, valuing you even more than our own biological daughter. And how do you repay us? At your coming-of-age ceremony, you schemed against the crown prince, treating the Jiang clan's 9 families as a joke. Now you scheme against your foster brother. Do you seek to ruin my son's future, to destroy the Jiang family's century of hard work? You ungrateful, treacherous wretch. I should never have shown mercy. I should have cast you out from the very start. I watched the scene of mother and daughter tearing each other apart with cold eyes, feeling only bitter irony. When they took me back, they couldn't bear to expel Jiang Jinrong. At the coming-of-age ceremony, they couldn't bring themselves to punish his grave offense. Now that Jinrong has touched their precious legitimate son and shaken the very foundations of the Jiang family, father and mother finally panic. So, the punishment must strike where it hurts most. Otherwise, none of them will ever truly feel your pain. The moment mother mentioned expelling Jiang Jinrong, Jiang Haoyu immediately defended him. If you cast Jinrong out, then cast me out too. The chancellor's chest heaved with rage. He kicked Jiang Haoyu hard, then suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed backward. Another one fell from anger. 26 Chaos reigned in the Jiang residence. At dawn, the night wind bitingly cold, Jiang Haoyu and Jiang Jinrong knelt in punishment in the courtyard. Inside, a single lamp flickered like a bean. I took the warm medicinal broth and approached the chancellor's bedside. Father, drink your medicine. The imperial physician said your condition stems from sudden anger overwhelming your heart, the same symptoms as His Highness Prince Chen. This will cure you. The usually strong-willed chancellor showed signs of exhaustion and aging. I carefully fed him the medicine, wiping the residue from the corner of his mouth. The mistress witnessed this entire scene. Suddenly, the chancellor clasped my hand, his eyes welling up. Here, father was wrong. I shouldn't have favored an outsider and neglected my own good daughter. The mistress stepped forward, wiping her own tears. We were both terrible parents, blinded by our own foolishness. How could we have favored such an ungrateful, untrustworthy creature? Holding my hands, they offered sincere repentance, apologies, and pleas for my forgiveness. It turned out they too knew they had treated me unfairly, neglected me, and been harsh toward me. Their remorse wasn't genuine. They merely saw Jiang Haoyu being raised into a useless fool, while Jiang Jinrong proved utterly worthless. All the family's hopes now rested solely on me, their biological daughter and soon-to-be princess consort. Father, mother, your words overwhelm me. I understand your hardships and struggles, and I've never dared to harbor resentment. I too had learned to speak such tactful words, which only deepened the couple's shame. The matriarch shook her head in confusion. Even Prince Chen witnessed this. How can we possibly resolve this? The chancellor pressed his temples. Regardless, Jiang Jinrong absolutely cannot remain in the chancellor's residence. Perhaps you should hear your daughter's suggestion. I spoke up at the right moment. Brother developed feelings for Jiang Jinrong because they grew up together, always too close. We simply need to separate them. Explain further, here. My humble suggestion is for His Royal Highness Prince Chen to transfer brother to the frontier for 2 years of training. There, he can reflect on his mistakes while earning merit. Keeping him in the golden nest of the imperial city won't serve his future well. Reasonable. But what of Jiang Jinrong? The chancellor seemed reluctant to refer to her by the Jiang surname again, changing his words. What shall we do with that adopted daughter? Sister Jinrong has lived in the imperial city for many years and has gained some renown. If the chancellor's mansion were to expel her outright, it would likely invite criticism and impeachment. I smiled. Why not arrange a marriage for her, sending her far away? That way, our chancellor's mansion would have fulfilled its duty to the utmost. The chancellor's gaze toward me brimmed with admiration. Here truly lives up to being my own daughter. Your strategic maneuvering echoes the brilliance of my youth. The mistress declared proudly, the daughter I bore you could never be lacking. For a moment, they seemed almost affectionate toward me. But where can we find a suitable match so quickly? I smiled. That scholar Zhang Wenxuan who denounced Yuan Yuan, though his family is poor, he seems honest and upright. But Zhang Wenxuan hasn't even earned a single official title. The matriarch instinctively worried Jiang Jinrong might suffer a poor life if married off, but she quickly steeled her resolve. Enough. She comes from humble origins anyway. Marrying Zhang Wenxuan would be a step up for her. Why should I scheme on her behalf? With the matter settled, I attended to my parents retiring for the night. Early the next morning, Jiang Haoyu and Jiang Jinrong were confined separately. Upon receiving news of the betrothal, Zhang Wenxuan came to thank me personally. Miss truly kept her word. When I returned from my rebirth, time was pressing. I could only bribe Zhang Wenxuan, who happened to be loitering in the inner courtyard. You handled the task well when I sent you to ambush Yuan Yuan at the rockery. I promised you a good marriage as reward afterward. Would you be satisfied with Jiang Jinrong as your bride? Zhang Wenxuan bowed, more than satisfied. Though she's a fake heiress, she's been meticulously groomed by the Prime Minister's household. This humble servant feels truly honored. Zhang Wenxuan had failed the imperial examinations year after year. His admission to the Prime Minister's residence to study was entirely due to his sycophantic flattery. He was slightly more clever than Yuan Yuan, but in terms of family background, scholarly talent, and character, he was merely a second-rate Yuan Yuan. In my previous life, Jiang Jinrong deliberately chose a self-made man to defile me. Now, I repay her in kind. 27 After settling everything at home, I carried the snacks I'd prepared to the Prince Chen's residence. Gu Jiuzhao truly seemed heartbroken, lying on his bed with eyes closed, resting. Seeing me enter, he propped himself up and watched silently as I ladled silver ear fungus soup into a bowl. I fed him a spoonful, and he asked, "Didn't you add sugar?" I quickly tasted it myself. My apologies, Your Highness. I forgot the sugar again. He teased, "Don't young ladies always crave sweet things? How could you forget the sugar? When I was little, my foster mother wouldn't let me touch the sugar at home. She said it was too expensive, that I wasn't worthy of eating it." I casually mentioned this old story, inadvertently revealing my wrists. Sure enough, Gu Jiuzhao noticed the old scar on my arm. He grabbed my wrist and asked closely, "Back then, I was so lost in passion I never noticed this old scar on you. Who did this?" I stammered, "Your Highness, please don't ask. Telling you would only sully your ears. Speak." His command forced me to open up. That day, in front of everyone, my sister declared I was raised by a courtesan. She wasn't slandering me. My foster mother, Jiang Jinrong's birth mother, truly was a dancer in a brothel. Back then, she was pregnant with a customer's child but couldn't find the father. Using her connections as the top courtesan, she learned the chancellor's wife would be hiking that day. So she paid a group of men to pose as bandits, forcing the pregnant chancellor's wife into a dilapidated temple. In that dilapidated temple, both women gave birth. My foster mother switched the babies. She found a good home for her child, while I was left to follow her, begging for a living. I traced the scar. When I was 8, she was assaulted by a customer. I rushed in to protect her and got slashed by flying shards from a vase. The cut ran deep. Afterward, my foster mother scolded me, saying my arm was now ugly and I'd never dance beautifully again. Later, she deemed me timid and cowardly, forcing me to perform dances on the streets. I still remember that day, awkwardly dancing in the street, when I happened upon the Chancellor's daughter out for a stroll. Her carriage was so splendid, adorned with feathered wind chimes, and as it passed, the scent of orchids wafted by. I stole a glance at the young lady inside the carriage. She wore a crown of glass flowers, a golden silk gown, and played with a fluffy rabbit in her hands. I was mesmerized. My foster mother covered my eyes and sternly warned me that she was a noble lady, not someone like me to stare at. She forbade me even from feeling envy, for I would never be worthy of such a life. Yet days later, she pointed to the towering Chancellor's mansion and said that if I danced well enough, I could perform for that very young lady and earn a reward. Only later did I understand, she missed her own daughter. She pushed me to master dance so I could take her to the mansion and see her biological child. And the price for entering the mansion? I paused. She demanded I scar my own face. I paused here, smiling as I asked, "Your Highness, have you never seen me dance?" I rose from the bed, elegantly stretching my arms to reveal limbs scarred by old wounds. I began to spin and dance, but before I could take 2 steps, Gu Jiuzhao embraced me from behind. "I'm sorry, Jinhe." He nestled against my shoulder, his voice muffled with apology. "I shouldn't have let those people use your past pain to humiliate you. Jiang Jinrong stole your life, I shouldn't have let her hurt you again." My throat tightened as I replied softly, "I'm fine. Look, the bitter has given way to sweet now." 28 Truthfully, my feelings for your Highness were no less than what I felt for Jiang Jinrong. I whispered softly, "Do you know how I was recognized and brought back to the Prime Minister's residence? It was because you purged the corrupt Shin family from the court. The brothel where my foster mother worked was the very den where the Shin family laundered their ill-gotten gains. When the Imperial Guards raided the brothel that day, the leader was none other than my mother's elder brother, the Minister of Justice. My uncle noticed how much I resembled my mother as a child. His suspicions led him to investigate further, and that's how I was finally recognized and brought back to the Prime Minister's residence. In my heart, I am deeply grateful to His Royal Highness Prince Qin." Gu Jiuzhao, hearing this for the first time, gazed at me with astonishment and delight. "So we were destined to meet long ago. I nearly missed you." He cupped my cheeks and kissed me gently, a kiss brimming with heartache and remorse. When a man begins to feel heartache for you and guilt toward you, his love for you is not far behind. I didn't tell Gu Jiuzhao that chaos reigned in the brothel at the time. My foster mother, fearing I'd be recognized by the officers, tried to stop me. All I wanted then was to escape her grasp. So when she held me tightly, I snatched the hairpin from her hair and stabbed it into the back of her head. In my panic, I fled straight into the arms of the official investigating the case. He was utterly shocked by my appearance. Only later did I learn that this Minister of Justice was my birth mother's elder brother. At 17, I was the spitting image of my birth mother in her youth. The Minister of Justice worked with remarkable efficiency, and it was soon confirmed that I was indeed the true daughter of the Chancellor's household. The true daughter possessed many things. For instance, the betrothal to the Prince of Chen's household. It had existed since my birth. I clung tightly to Gu Jiuzhao, embracing not only the man I had long admired, but also my bright future. I was merely reclaiming what had always been rightfully mine. 29 After that day, Gu Jiuzhao never inquired about Jiang Jinrong again. 2 days before the wedding, Jiang Haoyu was urgently summoned by the Prince Chen's mansion to the eastern border, ordered to depart immediately. Military orders could not be disobeyed. Before dawn, Jiang Haoyu reluctantly joined the army, his parents watching him go. The day before the wedding, Jiang Jinrong learned she had been arranged a marriage. The maid deliberately left her words incomplete, leading Jiang Jinrong to mistakenly believe she was to marry Jiang Haoyu. When I entered the attic, she was excitedly trying on the delivered wedding gown and headpiece. These wedding garments and ornaments are far too perfunctory. Jiang Haoyu is the sole son of the Chancellor. Do you think I'm merely the mistress of the Jiang household? Even if time is tight, how dare you treat me with such neglect? She scolded the maid delivering the items, only to turn and see me. I had already dismissed the maid. Alone in the room, we faced each other in the fading sunlight. The moment Jiang Jinrong recognized me, she dropped the jewelry. Jiang Jinhe, you dare show your face? I smiled back, countering, why wouldn't I? I'm not the one with a guilty conscience. You were the one who drugged Jiang Haoyu, weren't you? Jiang Jinrong's eye twitched, her gaze turning venomous. I exposed her scheme from that day. You deliberately provoked him to enrage me, then lured me over under the pretense of an apology. Jiang Haoyu was drugged and lost control. He's strong. Once I stepped into that room, you'd lock the door from the outside. Then, when the time was right, you'd alert father, mother, and Prince Chen. That way, I'd be branded a sinner for incest with my own brother. Not only would father and mother reject me, but the marriage to Prince Chen's mansion would be ruined. Sister, what a venomous scheme. I eyed her body with mocking scrutiny. Know why I saw through your plot so easily? Because since I can remember, I've witnessed such tricks countless times in brothels. You grew up in the Prime Minister's mansion, yet you grasped these vile tactics without a teacher. No wonder, the daughter of a courtesan. The same vile blood runs through your veins. How dare you insult me? Jiang Jinrong, enraged, raised her hand to strike me. I seized her wrist and slapped her across the face instead. Jiang Jinrong, remember this, everything I've done to you is merely returning your own tactics in kind. Jiang Jinrong's face twisted from the blow, her eyes red with humiliation as she gritted out, so what if you gloat now? From this day forward in this household, you shall address me as elder sister-in-law and show me respect as your senior. I stared at her as if she were a fool, then suddenly covered my mouth and burst into laughter. What are you laughing at? Jiang Jinrong grew uneasy and flustered by my laughter. I patted her shoulder meaningfully, saying nothing. 30 The Grand Sage had chosen an impeccably auspicious day for Prince Chen's wedding. Jiang Jinrong's wedding piggybacked on this auspicious date. Neither the Chancellor nor the lady of the house appeared at her departure. Only 2 maids perfunctorily applied her makeup. Only when she entered the bridal sedan chair did Jiang Jinrong finally look around, searching. Where is Jiang Haoyu? Today is our wedding day. Why hasn't he shown himself? A groom suddenly appeared in her line of sight. My lady, were you looking for me? Zhang Wenxuan? How could it be you? Jiang Jinrong recognized the scholar who had filed complaints against her. My lady jests. If not me, then who else could it be? Zhang Wenxuan grinned as he took Jiang Jinrong's hand and held it to his nose, sniffing. My lady, you smell so sweet. How dare you? Jiang Jinrong yanked her hand free and slapped Zhang Wenxuan angrily. Today is my wedding day. Don't you fear Jiang Haoyu will expel you from the Prime Minister's residence? You mean the eldest young master? He enlisted long ago. He left 2 days prior and is already at the border by now. Jiang Jinrong stared in disbelief. You're lying. If he's not here, then who am I marrying? Zhang Wenxuan froze, rubbing his hands nervously. My lady, you don't know? The man you're marrying today is me. The Chancellor betrothed you to me long ago. Tonight is our wedding night. Jiang Jinrong's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. My parents wouldn't abandon me like this. Jiang Haoyu wouldn't dare betray me. Your reputation is already ruined, my lady. No one in the Chancellor's household will protect you now. Your only place is as the wife of Zhang Wenxuan. No, no. I must see the Chancellor. I must see the lady of the house. Jiang Jinrong tried to flee to the front hall, but the wedding procession blocked her path. The matron in charge declared, the front hall hosts the wedding of Prince Chen and Princess Chen. As an outsider, you won't be disrupting the Chancellor's ceremony. Outsider? I am the legitimate daughter of the Chancellor's household. The matron sneered, the Chancellor's household has only one true daughter, Jiang Jinhe. You are merely a counterfeit brought in through a switch. The Chancellor can no longer tolerate you, you are no different from an outsider. If you know what's good for you, leave the Chancellor's residence in that bridal sedan chair. Otherwise, don't blame us for forcibly removing you and making you lose all face. Jiang Jinrong belatedly realized she had been utterly abandoned by the chancellor and his wife. She guessed that provoking Jiang Haoyu this time had caused a major disaster, but she had made grave mistakes before. Her parents would at most give her the cold shoulder for a day before coaxing her back. Why was this time different? Why was it different? The old nurse cut straight to the heart of it. You've occupied the position of the daughter for so long, have you forgotten you're just a wild dove occupying the nest? Get her into the wedding palanquin. Don't delay the auspicious hour. Servants half-dragged, half-carried Jiang Jinrong into the palanquin. She struggled violently, disheveling her phoenix crown. Hearing the lively music from the front hall, she screamed hysterically, "This can't be. I'm the Chancellor's daughter. I am the beloved of Prince Chen. At the very least, I should marry the Chancellor's legitimate son. How dare you treat me this way? Father! Mother! Your daughter is so wronged. How could you be so heartless? How could you be so heartless?" The matron said impatiently, "Gag her." Shang Wenxuan personally grabbed a square handkerchief, pinched Jiang Jinrong's chin, and stuffed it into her mouth. He chuckled, "Stop fantasizing about being the Chancellor's daughter or the Prince Chen's consort, those titles belong to others." He patted her cheek. "You, my dear, are the perfect match for me." Finally, Jiang Jinrong was bound and gagged, stuffed into the cramped wedding sedan chair. The meager wedding procession of barely a dozen people played half-hearted music as they passed the Chancellor's mansion gates. Jiang Jinrong strained to peek out, seeing the main entrance adorned with lanterns and decorations, guests crowding the courtyard, laughter and cheer filling the air. Amidst the crowd's cheers, Prince Chen carefully lifted the Chancellor's daughter, adorned in gold and jewels. Unwilling to let the princess walk even a single step, he carried her directly into the six-tiered, ornate wedding carriage. 10 miles of crimson wedding procession filled the city with festive fragrance. Jiang Jinrong wept with envy. This was the wedding she had always dreamed of. Yet now, she was confined to a cramped, crude bridal sedan chair, destined to marry a penniless scholar with no future. Refusing to accept this fate, she lunged forward and tumbled out of the sedan chair. Hoping to catch the Prince of Chen's attention, she instead crashed forehead first onto the ground, her head splitting open in a gush of blood. The Prince of Chen never once glanced her way. 31 in my first year as the Prince of Chen's wife, I gave birth to our young heir. At the full moon banquet, Jiang Jinrong's 3 former friends arrived bearing lavish gifts to offer congratulations. The county princess who once mocked me praised my youthful appearance. The young Marquis who had humiliated me begged me to speak well of him to the prince. The young Marquis who had set me up at the Jade Pavilion that day privately offered me tea as an apology. We sat together at the same table, I in the seat of honor, the 3 of them in the secondary seats, each forcing smiles, careful not to let the atmosphere grow awkward. I casually asked, "Have any of you heard news of Jiang Jinrong lately?" The county princess feigned ignorance. "Jiang Jinrong? I'd completely forgotten such a person ever existed." The young Marquis offered a forced smile. "If you ask me, a fake is a fake, and a counterfeit is a counterfeit. The world remembers only the genuine pearl, who would bother with a worthless imitation?" The young Marquis spoke with a guilty conscience. "Back then, she incited us to do many foolish things. Your Highness, please don't hold it against us." I sipped my tea, my voice laced with indifference. "I'd thought you former close friends might still care about her." "Who was ever her close friend? Your Highness, please don't joke with us like this, ha ha ha." Seated in the main position, I watched these 3 former bullies squirm and offer uneasy smiles for over half an hour. It proved far more entertaining than any play. 32 the following year, Gu Jiuzhao was named Crown Prince, and I became the mistress of the Eastern Palace. This unfolded exactly as it had in my previous life. After becoming Crown Princess, my parents treated me with even greater affection. The Chancellor made a point of inquiring about my well-being during every morning court session. My mother-in-law frequently prepared nourishing soups and tonics for me, urging me to recuperate well after childbirth to bear many children and bring blessings. Jiang Haoyu returned from the frontier with military honors. After 2 years tempered by the harsh borderlands, my own brother had matured considerably. He had earned significant military merit and was granted the rank of 3rd-grade General of the Flying Cavalry. Having achieved fame and glory, Jiang Haoyu came to the Eastern Palace to see me and apologize for the hurt he had caused me 2 years prior. I responded magnanimously, we are blood kin. I hold no grudges over past matters. Brother, you must look forward and strive to achieve even greater military honors. Jiang Haoyu looked deeply ashamed. He volunteered. On my triumphant return, I passed through Songyang County and saw Jiang Jinrong. Oh. She begged me to bring her back to the capital, but I refused. She looked wretched and clearly wasn't faring well. Brother, you care for her. Why not bring her back? Your Highness jests. Though she may not wish to abandon the Jiang name, she is no longer of the Jiang family. Besides, she is now married to another. Moreover, that absurd act I committed back then? She drugged me. I've long since come to my senses. Then why did you tell me this, brother? Princess. Sister, might you find me a suitable match for marriage? Once one tastes the flavor of power and influence, they are no longer entangled by romantic entanglements. Jiang Haoyu's prospects were now bright, and naturally, he harbored thoughts of using marriage to climb even higher. Alas, his youthful indiscretions had left him with a poor reputation among the imperial court's elite social circles. After over a year of meticulous planning, the Chancellor's household finally secured a match for Jiang Haoyu, the legitimate daughter of a third-rank civil official. The Chancellor's family demonstrated utmost sincerity during the marriage arrangements, humbling themselves to secure this virtuous wife for Jiang Haoyu. 33 That third winter, a woman stood outside the eastern palace gates, clamoring to see the crown prince. At the time, Gu Jiuzhou was directing the Supreme Court to thoroughly investigate a long-standing miscarriage of justice. Assuming it was some aggrieved party seeking audience at the crown prince's residence, he took me out to meet her. The woman stood hunched over, her exposed skin covered in red rashes, a scar running across her forehead. Gu Jiuzhou didn't recognize her at first glance. Only when she cried out with eyes gleaming, "Your Highness, it's me. I'm Jinrong." Gu Jiuzhou looked as though he'd swallowed a fly. Satisfied she wasn't a wronged party seeking aid, he took my hand and said softly, "You are just insisted on Daddy holding him. I'll go soothe the child first. Go ahead. I'll handle this." After 3 years of marriage, Gu Jiuzhou understood my temperament well. He asked no questions, merely adjusting the fox fur cloak around my shoulders. "Don't catch cold. And don't waste too much thought on people like her." I clasped his hand in return. "I understand." Gu Jiuzhou lingered with me for a moment before ignoring Jiang Jinrong and striding back into the mansion. "Your Highness. It's Jinrong, it's me, Jinrong. Stop calling out, Jiang Jinrong. Even if you turned to ashes, I'd still recognize you." Jiang Jinrong glared at me, her eyes brimming with hatred and resentment heavier than winter's heaviest snowfall. Yet she softened her tone. "Sister, I beg you to spare me a crumb. I truly can't go on living like this." She then launched into a tirade about Zhang Wenxuan's debauchery, his drinking, gambling, womanizing, and how he'd bled her dry. "I've truly run out of options. I blocked my brother's procession, but he ignored me completely. I begged at the Chancellor's residence, but they shut their doors to me. I had no choice but to come to the Eastern Palace and plead with you, my sister. Sister, it was all my fault before. Please save me. Just give me anything that lets me stand my ground in the Imperial City." I stepped closer and casually plucked a golden hairpin from my bun. "Is this pin enough?" Jiang Jinrong nodded ingratiatingly as she reached for the pin. Yet the instant her fingers touched it, she abruptly flipped the pin around, aiming its sharpest point straight at my heart. But before the pin could harm me, Jiang Jinrong was kicked to the ground by the Eastern Palace guards. Years of torment had ravaged her body. After being knocked down, she struggled to rise. I stood up, looking down at her. "Sister, these years haven't been kind to you, have they?" Jiang Jinrong clutched the golden hairpin, lifting her head to curse me. "This isn't right. It wasn't like this in my dreams. In my dreams, I was the crown prince's consort. You, Jiang Jinhe, were the one cast aside. It was you. You stole my destiny. All this glory and wealth should have been mine. The daughter of the Prime Minister's household should have been mine. The consort of Prince Jin should have been mine. The crown prince should have been mine." Seeing her words and actions, I guessed she had regained her memories of the past life. 34 When did you remember? Jiang Jinrong touched the scar on her forehead, meeting my gaze. 3 years ago. On my wedding day, I fell and cut my forehead. That's when it all came back. Good, I said with a smile. I was afraid you wouldn't remember. These past 3 years, you must have been thinking, everything I possess should have been yours. How dare I snatch it all away from you? You must have been in agony, night after night, too bitter to sleep. By day, just the thought of it must have made you so furious you could spit blood. Alive in body, yet suffering the torment of hell, isn't that right? Jiang Jinrong stared at me in terror. I had almost perfectly articulated every thought and feeling she'd experienced. Why was I so clear on this? Because I'd lived it myself, born the true heiress, yet forced to live 18 years of a lowly existence. I wanted Jiang Jinrong to remember exactly what she once possessed, then strip her of everything. Only then would it be the ultimate psychological torture. Sister, do you have the courage to flee, killing your husband like I did in my past life? Seeing Jiang Jinrong's panic, I knew she dared not. Which means, Zhang Wenxuan is still alive. Well then, I'll send someone to return you to him. After all, this marriage of yours was brought about by my own golden words. Jiang Jinrong snapped her head up. You pushed me into this hellhole? 35-something occurred to her, and she shrank back, pleading desperately, no. Don't send me back to Zhang Wenxuan. I'd rather die than live like this. I'd rather die than live like this. She suddenly grabbed the golden hairpin in her hand, engraved with a vivid peony symbolizing wealth and honor. Staring at the peony, she smiled. She had dreamed of wearing such a crown princess-style hairpin. Her eyes darkened. Suddenly, she thrust the golden pin into her own chest. The guards were baffled. But I saw clearly, Jiang Jinrong had recalled her marital bond with Gu Jiuzhao from her past life. She foolishly believed Gu Jiuzhao must still harbor feelings for her in this lifetime, that he would never abandon her to her fate. The stab to her heart wasn't deep, drawing only a trickle of blood. She collapsed pitifully in the snow, murmuring, Your Highness. Your Highness. Jinrong hurts so much. Your Highness. I dismissed the guards, signaling them to leave her be. 36 When I returned to the orchid chamber, Gu Jiuzhao was hoisting 3-year-old Yuer onto his shoulders, letting him ride high. Yuer clutched his father's ears with tiny hands, giggling merrily. Spotting me, father and son stopped their play, smiling. I told him, Jiang Jinrong stabbed herself. She's lying in the snow calling your name, waiting for you to save her. Gu Jiuzhao replied, Why tell me this? Come see, today I taught Yuer to write characters by hand. What character? Led by father and son to the desk, I saw a crooked, childish he character on the Shan paper at its center. It's Yuer's mother's name. Mother! Mother! Yuer clapped his hands, demanding a hug. I quickly picked him up, kissing him repeatedly. Yuer is so clever. Gu Jiuzhao vied for attention beside us. What about me? Isn't Yuer's father clever too? Very clever, I replied, giving him a perfunctory reward. He, however, clung to me, refusing to let go. The study echoed with the laughter of our little family. At dawn the next day, a woman froze to death outside the eastern palace gates. Guards hastily collected her body. When I was 10, my foster mother once warned me, if I didn't learn my craft well and please the guests, I'd end up frozen in the snow. She told me not to compare myself to noble daughters, their futures held wealth and harmony. Everything she said proved true. The heiress was me. The crown princess was me. The golden halls and harmonious marriage were mine. The one frozen to death in the snow was her own daughter, the impostor heiress who usurped her place. In this lifetime, the misaligned destinies have found their rightful positions. The pearl shines bright once more. The phoenix returns to its nest. The end.